In the heart of Igbo land, long before the world knew the hustle of today, there was Eke Awka. Picture this, the 1950s, a time when dawn broke not to the sound of engines, but to the gentle chatter of traders setting up their stalls. The air, thick with the scent of fresh yams, spices, and earth, carried the promise of a prosperous day. Sunlight, like liquid gold, poured over wooden tables laden with vibrant fabrics, handcrafted pottery, and the bounty of the land. This was more than a market. It was the lifeblood of the community, a place where stories were traded as freely as goods. Every Eke market day, the rhythm was the same, a familiar dance of commerce and camaraderie. But on one particular morning, a new, enchanting melody was about to join the chorus, one that would change the song of Eke Awka forever. As the market swelled with its usual lively crowd, a figure of serene elegance emerged. She moved through the throng not with haste, but with a grace that seemed to part the sea of people before her. An African woman, perhaps in her early 30s, with a kind, oval face and warm brown skin that glowed under the morning sun. Her eyes held a gentle wisdom, and a soft, mysterious smile played on her lips. She was adorned in a stunning traditional wrapper and head tie of deep blue and gold, the intricate patterns shimmering with her every step. Golden beads graced her neck and wrists, catching the light and adding to her ethereal presence. Traders, mid-haggle, would pause, their conversations faltering as they watched her pass. She was stunning, a stranger who moved like she owned the market. Whispers trailed behind her, everyone curious about who she was and where she came from. Her journey through the market was a quiet one. She would stop at a stall, her gaze appreciative as she surveyed the goods. There was no hurried pointing or loud bartering. Instead, her elegant hands, adorned with simple gold bracelets, would hover over the items she desired. At one stall, she selected the ripest, reddest tomatoes, her touch so delicate it was as if she were testing the spirit of the fruit. At another, she chose a bundle of dried fish, its silvery scales gleaming in the warm afternoon light. She spoke little, communicating mostly through her kind eyes and that enigmatic smile. She never rushed, taking her time, appreciating the craftsmanship and the harvest of each trader she visited. It was a transaction, yes, but it felt more like a quiet ceremony, a blessing bestowed upon their humble wares. When it came time to pay, her grace continued. She would reach into a small pouch, her movements unhurried, and draw out the exact amount in crisp Nigerian currency notes. Her hands would meet the traders, a brief, warm contact as the money was exchanged. The traders, in turn, would feel an overwhelming sense of satisfaction. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the encounter itself. They would watch her depart, a feeling of inexplicable peace settling over them. A good sale, they would think, nodding with a smile, counting the notes one last time before tucking them safely away. Business was good. The day was blessed. Or so it seemed. The mysterious woman in blue and gold left a trail of contentment behind her, a wave of calm in the bustling market. But as the sun began its descent, that calm was about to be shattered. One of the first to serve her was a man named Okoro, a seasoned vendor of dried goods. He had sold her a generous portion of his finest dried fish. As the afternoon wore on and the crowds began to thin, Okoro decided to tally his earnings for the day. He reached for the spot where he had kept the money from the graceful woman, his mind replaying the pleasant transaction. But as his fingers closed around the payment, they didn't feel the crisp texture of currency. He pulled his hand out, his brow furrowed in confusion. Lying in his palm was not money, but a pile of brittle, dried leaves. He blinked, his mind refusing to process what his eyes were seeing. His mouth fell open, a gasp of disbelief escaping his lips. He looked around wildly, the last rays of sunset streaming through his stall, casting long, dramatic shadows. The leaves were ordinary, the kind that littered the market floor. It was impossible. He had felt the notes. He had seen them. Had his mind played a trick on him? Okoro stumbled from his stall, the dried leaves clutched in his trembling hand. Has anyone seen? Did anyone else serve the woman in the blue and gold wrapper? He called out, his voice laced with panic. A yam seller, Matsi Uche, looked up. Yes, I did. A lovely woman. What? Okoro rushed over, his face a mask of distress. Look what she paid me with. He opened his palm, revealing the worthless leaves. Matsi Uche scoffed, then reached into his own pocket. His confident expression quickly melted into one of identical shock and confusion. He too held a handful of dried leaves. A murmur rippled through the remaining traders. One by one, they checked their earnings from the mysterious woman. A pottery maker, a fabric merchant, a spice seller. All of them discovered the same baffling transformation. The money they had received, counted, and secured had turned into nothing more than dead foliage. Panic began to set in as they gathered in a tight, animated circle, their voices rising in a cacophony of fear and disbelief. The story spread through Awka like a harmattan wildfire. It was all anyone could talk about. How could money simply turn into leaves? It defied all logic. As the traders pieced together their encounters, a chilling pattern began to emerge. The beautiful woman only ever appeared on one specific day. An elder, looking at a traditional Igbo calendar hanging on a wooden wall, pointed a shaky finger. He traced the 4-day week, Eke, Ori, a 4, and Quo. The woman, they realized with a dawning sense of dread, appeared only on Eke Day. Eke Awka, the day the market was named for. The day it was busiest. The day the veil between worlds was said to be at its thinnest. The red circle on the calendar marking Eke Day now seemed less like a reminder and more like a warning. The mystery deepened, taking on a more spiritual, more unnerving dimension. This was no ordinary trickster. The phenomenon was tied to the market's very name, to its most sacred day. As the next Eke Day arrived, the market was filled with a different kind of energy. The usual buzz faded into a tense silence as traders scanned for that blue and gold. And then, as the sun reached its zenith, she appeared. The same graceful posture, the same kind eyes, the same mysterious smile. But this time, the whispers that followed her were not of admiration, but of fear. They saw her glide through the market, a serene and lonely figure in the midst of the wary crowd. As evening approached and a low-lying mist began to roll in, enveloping the stalls in an ethereal haze, she began to walk away. Her elegant silhouette in the blue and gold wrapper grew faint, fading into the misty crowd until she was gone. The traders stood frozen, watching the spot where she had vanished. She hadn't bought a single thing. She had just appeared and disappeared. Was she a warning? A spirit? The questions hung in the air, unanswered, as the mystery of the Eke Awka market woman took an even more suspenseful turn. What did she want? And would she return? The people of Awka could only wait, their fear and fascination growing with each passing day. For weeks, her presence had been the talk of the town. She would appear with the morning mist, an elegant woman, her face kind, her posture graceful. She wore a stunning blue and gold wrapper, her neck adorned with gold beads. She never spoke, never touched a thing. But as she walked through the market, a soft, ethereal glow surrounding her, the once bustling aisles would fall silent. Traders, their faces etched with confusion and a touch of nervousness, would back away, whispering among themselves. Who was she? What did she want? The atmosphere was thick with mystery, and the usual morning cheer of Eke Awka was replaced by a quiet, unsettling awe. The community knew this was no ordinary event. It was a sign, a message they could not yet understand. Fear and confusion began to grip the heart of the community. The market, once the vibrant pulse of their lives, was now a place of uncertainty. Sales dwindled as people grew hesitant to attend. The elders knew that this was a matter beyond the ordinary, a spiritual puzzle that needed an expert hand to solve. So, they did what their ancestors had always done in times of great spiritual concern. They called for the dibia. From a neighboring village came a man renowned for his wisdom and connection to the spiritual world. He was an elder, perhaps 70 years old, with a long, gray beard that bespoke a lifetime of experience. His eyes held a deep, knowing calm. Dressed in a simple white wrapper with a traditional red cap, he carried a wooden staff carved with ancient symbols of his people. He arrived not with fanfare, but with a quiet dignity that commanded immediate respect. The community gathered, their hopes resting on this wise man to shed light on the shadow that had fallen over their beloved market. The dibia sat under the great Irako tree at the edge of the village, the traditional meeting place for matters of grave importance. The air was still, heavy with anticipation. He didn't speak at first, simply observing the concerned faces of the market traders who had gathered around him. He listened patiently as they recounted their experiences, their voices a mixture of fear and wonder. He needed to consult the ancestors to look beyond the veil of the physical world. He unrolled a woven mat, and from a leather bag, he produced his divination tools: cowrie shells, smooth and white like polished bone, and kola nuts, split into their lobes. He arranged them carefully, his hands moving with a practiced, deliberate grace. He lit incense, and a thin wisp of fragrant smoke curled upwards, carrying his intentions to the spirit realm. Chanting softly in the ancient Igbo tongue, he cast the shells. They scattered across the mat, forming a pattern that only he could interpret. He leaned forward, his expression serious and contemplative, his wise eyes tracing the story told by the shells. The crowd held its breath, waiting for the truth to be revealed. After a long, silent moment of contemplation, the dibia sat back. He looked at the gathered crowd, his gaze sweeping over each anxious face. He raised a hand for silence, though the crowd was already completely still. "The presence you have witnessed," he began, his voice calm and steady, "is not one of malice. She is a spirit seeking peace." A collective sigh of relief and intrigue rippled through the people. "Her name was Uliama," the dibia continued. "She was a trader, known for her kindness and for the beautiful blue and gold cloth she wove and sold right here, in this very market." He explained that her spirit was restless, bound to the place she loved most in life. The cowrie shells had told him of a disturbance, an imbalance that was preventing her soul from completing its journey. It wasn't a curse or a warning, but a plea for help from a soul lost between worlds. The people listened intently, their fear slowly transforming into a deep sense of compassion. This wasn't a frightening apparition. It was one of their own, reaching out from beyond. The dibia then guided them to a difficult memory, a truth some had forgotten and others had never known. He spoke of Uliama's passing, which had happened suddenly during a time of great confusion in the village years ago. His words painted a somber scene, a hasty burial ceremony under a gray, overcast sky. The rites were not completed, he explained solemnly. In the turmoil of those days, essential traditions were overlooked. Her journey to the ancestors was interrupted. He described how her family, in their grief and haste, had failed to perform the proper ceremonial rites that ensure a spirit's peaceful transition. They had not symbolically offered her trade goods, the work of her hands, back to the earth and to the ancestors. An unfinished farewell. It was a mistake born not of malice, but of distress. This oversight had left her spirit adrift, unable to find rest. The mystery was no longer about a strange appearance. It was about a communal responsibility, a debt of respect that had gone unpaid. As the dibia spoke, a profound understanding dawned on the faces of the market people. It all made sense now. The elegant woman wasn't haunting them. She was reminding them. She was showing them the very thing that tied her to this world. Her beautiful blue and gold wrapper, the symbol of her identity and her life's work. One of the older women in the crowd, her eyes filled with tears of recognition, rushed to her stall. She returned with a folded piece of cloth, identical to the one the spirit wore. It was one of Uliama's last creations, which she had bought just before her passing. She laid it respectfully on a clean mat under the Irako tree. Others followed suit, bringing yams, palm oil, and beads, the kinds of goods Uliama used to trade. They arranged them ceremonially around the cloth. The fear that had once chilled the air was replaced by a warm, compassionate understanding. They weren't dealing with a frightening unknown, but with the memory of a beloved friend and neighbor. With the truth revealed, the path forward was clear. The community had to correct the mistake of the past. The dibia announced that they would perform the complete, proper rites to honor Uliama's spirit and guide her home. The next day, the entire village gathered. Everyone was dressed in their traditional attire, a vibrant sea of colors united in a single purpose. The atmosphere was not one of sadness, but of deep respect and communal duty. The dibia, standing tall, led the ceremony. He raised his carved staff, his voice resonating with ancient chants that had been passed down through generations. The people participated, making offerings and saying prayers, their collective energy focused on bringing peace to Uliama. It was a powerful display of unity and tradition, a community coming together to heal a spiritual wound and restore balance, not just for Uliama, but for themselves. This was closure, a final, proper farewell. As the final chants faded and the last offerings were made, a stillness fell over the marketplace. Then, in the soft afternoon light, she appeared one last time. Yuliama's form was translucent, a gentle presence made of light. The nervousness was gone from the faces of the traders. In its place was reverence and love. She looked at them, and for the first time, a gentle smile graced her lips, a smile of profound gratitude and peace. She gave a slow, graceful nod, a silent thank you to the community that had finally remembered her correctly. Then, she began to fade, dissolving into a shower of golden light that drifted up towards the heavens. The traders bowed their heads in a final gesture of respect. A deep, collective peace settled over Eke Awka. The imbalance had been corrected. The lost soul had found her way home. In the days and weeks that followed, life returned to Eke Awka Market, but it was different. It was better. The fear was gone, replaced by a renewed sense of community and a deeper respect for their traditions. The sun seemed to shine a little warmer, a little brighter, on the prosperous market. The story of Yuliama, the mysterious woman in blue and gold, became not a tale of fear, but a cherished lesson, a powerful reminder of the importance of honoring the past, respecting tradition, and taking care of one another in this life and beyond. The legend of Eke Awka teaches us a timeless truth, one best captured by an old Igbo proverb. When we honor our ancestors, we pave the road for our children. The story of Yuliama is a beautiful illustration of this wisdom. It reminds us that our connection to those who came before us is real and that respecting their memory brings peace and harmony to our lives today. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the heart of Nigerian folklore. If you found this story as moving as we did, please like this video, share it with someone who loves a good story, and subscribe to our channel for more tales that connect us to the rich tapestry of our world as cultures. Until next time, stay curious and honor the stories that shape us.